Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this episode, I'll be teaching you how to make this Nutcracker and the King Mouse themed Christmas cake. So I'm using a cake dummy here because no one's going to eat this cake and it's purely for the decoration demonstration. I've added with a brush a little bit of water with some glucose syrup and I've put my fondant directly over the top. So I'm just spreading out those folds and pressing the fondant up against the cake, making sure to work in a downward motion so I don't trap any air in between the cake and the fondant. Then take a fondant smoother and smooth up the sides and the top of the cake, and then cut around the outside of the cake with a little spatula, trying to get as close to a cake as possible. And then smooth down the sides again, and here I'm preparing the crown. So I've got some yellow fondant, pressing it up against my ruler to make sure it's nice and flat, cutting off the edges to make sure it's nice and even, and I've cut it at such a length that it's going to cover the top of the cake and the crown will come up maybe a centimeter or so above the cake. And using a spatula, just roughly cutting out some triangles. You could use the ruler here to make sure that they're all even. And once you're done, roll it up and attach it onto your cake with a little bit of water on the side. I find this to be the easiest way to roll fondant around the cake. You just unroll it. You can use your fondant smoother here to make sure you don't trap any air pockets. I've just used my hand and I'm just kind of massaging it onto the cake. Then once you reach the end there, you can cut it off with your spatula. Just like so. Make sure it's nice and stuck on there. And then if you like, you can take the little edges of your triangles and pull them forward a little bit. Just for interest. Now to make the mouse's nose, I've used some brown fondant, making sure that all my folds or creases are at the very bottom. So I'm just scrunching it up and making sure that's at the bottom. And then using my hands to just mold it into a rough triangular shape. And using my palm to smooth down the fondant so you don't get any bumps or edges. And then using a little bit of water, I'm going to attach a little nose, which is brown fondant with a little bit of white fondant added to it to make it a bit lighter. 2 balls of white to go on top as the as eyeballs, and then 2 little black balls for pupils. I'm using the same brown I used for the nose to create the tail for your mouse as well, your mouse king cake. And then for the decorations, I've used this really awesome mold, and I'll have a link in the description box below where I found it. I'm adding some green fondant into the Christmas tree section, then pop that straight into the freezer for a good 20 minutes. Roll out some blue fondant, make sure it's at least half a centimeter in thickness, and then cut out your circles. I'm placing it into a bit of cornstarch as well, just to make sure that my circles come out alright. And then using the same blue, cutting out a centimeter thick circle, and this will make the gift boxes to go on the side of our cake. Do the same in yellow. You can tap it on the counter, or you could tap your hand to kind of help release your fondant from your cutter. And then use alternating colours to make your gift boxes. So I've used the shorter yellows on the taller blues and vice versa. After a good 20 minutes, you can pop your little fondant trees out of the silicone mould, and it won't misshape at all. That's why I put it into the freezer, to make sure that it pops out easily and it doesn't misshape. And this one has little creases in it, so I'm able to sort of line up my little fondant decorations with the little creases and stick them on with a little bit of water. Now taking a bow silicone mold, just pressing in some green fondant that I've rolled in a bit of cornstarch and using my spatula to cut off the excess. When you tip it over, it should come out on its own very easily. Then attach those onto your gift boxes with a little bit of water and attach it onto the cake or the cake board the same way. And these little trees are going to go on with wires. And notice here that I'm using little pliers to kind of press the wire into the cake. You don't want to use the tree and press it in, otherwise the wire will go through the tree instead of the cake if the cake's too hard. So press it in from the wire instead. Go over it with your steamer to make sure you remove any excess cornstarch, and then use a little rectangular fondant piece and indent the middle to make the teeth. That's how you make a Nutcracker and the King Mouse themed sort of cake. This is themed like a kid's Christmas cake. It's pretty easy to make and it still looks pretty effective. I mean, this will be the very last cake that I make for the Christmas kind of theme for this year. So I'll top it off on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you have a very safe and happy holiday. And yes, I will catch you next time.